In the ancient lands of Canaan, a young woman from Egypt named Hagar lived a life she did not choose. She was a servant, a handmaiden in the household of a wealthy man named Abram and his wife Sarai. Hagar was a foreigner in a strange place, far from the familiar sights and sounds of her Egyptian home. In this new world, she was not seen as a person with her own dreams or desires, but rather as property, a possession belonging to her mistress Sarai. Her days were filled with endless work, following the commands of others, and her voice was seldom heard. She was expected to be loyal and obedient, a silent figure in the background of a much larger family story that was unfolding around her. Sarai, the mistress of the house, carried a deep and heavy sadness in her heart. She was unable to have children, and in those times, a woman's value was often measured by her ability to give her husband a son. As the years passed, her hope grew thin, and the promise God had given to Abram, that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars, seemed impossible to her. Desperate to see this promise fulfilled, Sarai devised a plan. She decided to follow a custom of the time and give Hagar to Abram, so that Hagar could bear a child on Sarai's behalf. This decision was not Hagar's to make. She had no power, no choice, and no say in the matter. So, Hagar was given to Abram, and soon she conceived a child. This new reality changed everything within the household. For the first time, Hagar felt a sense of importance, a feeling of worth that she had never known before. She was carrying the air that her mistress could not. This new status caused Hagar to look upon Sarai with contempt, and a bitter conflict grew between the two women. The once peaceful home became a place of jealousy and harsh feelings. Sarai, feeling disrespected and hurt, treated Hagar with great cruelty. Abram, caught in the middle, told Sarai to do as she wished with her servant, leaving Hagar completely unprotected and alone in her suffering. The mistreatment became too much for Hagar to bear. The place that was supposed to be her home had become a prison of pain and humiliation. With a heavy heart, pregnant and feeling utterly powerless, she made a difficult decision. She decided to run away. Hagar fled into the vast and dangerous wilderness, seeking escape from her torment. She hoped to find freedom, but instead, she found herself in a desolate and lonely place, with no one to help her and an uncertain future ahead. The hot sun beat down on the empty desert, mirroring the emptiness and despair that filled her soul as she wandered farther and farther away from the only life she knew. Alone in the harsh and unforgiving desert, Hagar found a small spring of water, a tiny oasis in a vast expanse of sand and rock. It was there, at her lowest point, that something incredible happened. An angel of the Lord appeared before her. This was no ordinary encounter. It was a divine intervention in her moment of greatest need. The angel knew her name and understood her situation completely. He called out to her, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" This question showed that she was seen, that her story was known to God. It was a moment of profound recognition for a woman who felt invisible to the world. The angel then gave Hagar a difficult instruction. She was to return to her mistress and submit to her authority. This must have been hard for Hagar to hear, as she had just escaped a life of cruelty. However, this command came with a wonderful and life-changing promise. The angel told her that her descendants would be so numerous that they could not be counted. This was a promise of a great future, a destiny that went far beyond her current circumstances as a runaway servant. God was not just sending her back to a life of hardship. He was sending her back with a purpose and a promise that would sustain her through the difficult days ahead. The angel continued with an even more specific promise. He told her she would give birth to a son, and she was to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. The name itself was a comfort, a sign that the Lord had heard her cries of affliction and had not ignored her suffering. The angel also described the kind of man Ishmael would be, a wild donkey of a man, strong and independent. This promise gave Hagar hope and a reason to continue. She was not just a servant carrying a child for her mistress. She was the mother of a great nation, chosen by God for a special purpose. Overwhelmed by this divine encounter, Hagar was filled with a sense of awe and wonder. In that moment, she did something remarkable. She became the first person in the Bible to give God a name. She called him El Roi, which means the God who sees me. She understood that even in her darkest hour, when she felt completely forgotten and alone, God had been watching over her. He saw her pain, he heard her cries, and he cared about her future. The well where this happened was named Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me, a permanent reminder that no one is ever truly invisible to God. Hagar obeyed the angel's command and returned to Abram and Sarai. She gave birth to her son and named him Ishmael, just as she had been told. For 13 years, Ishmael was Abram's only son, a central figure in the household. However, God had another plan. He promised the elderly Abram, now called Abraham, and Sarai, now called Sarah, that they would have a son of their own, named Isaac. When Isaac was born, the household dynamics shifted once again. Sarah saw the teenage Ishmael mocking her young son, and her old jealousy flared up with renewed intensity. She demanded that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away for good. This demand caused Abraham great distress, for he loved his son Ishmael. But God spoke to Abraham, reassuring him that this was part of his plan. God promised to make a great nation from Ishmael as well, because he was Abraham's offspring. So, with a heavy heart, Abraham sent Hagar and her son away. He gave them some bread and a skin of water, a small supply for a journey into the vast and dangerous wilderness of Beersheba. Once again, Hagar found herself cast out, but this time she was not alone. She had her beloved son with her, an innocent boy who was now an outcast because of circumstances beyond his control. The desert is a cruel place, and their small supply of water did not last long. Soon, the water skin was empty, and the relentless sun beat down upon them. Ishmael, weak with thirst, began to cry. Hagar's heart broke as she watched her son suffer. Unable to bear the sight of him dying, she placed him under the shade of a small bush. Then, she walked a short distance away, about the length of a bowshot, and sat down. She could not watch him take his last breath. She lifted her own voice and wept loudly, her cries of grief and despair echoing across the silent, empty landscape. It was a moment of absolute hopelessness for a mother who had lost everything. Just as despair threatened to consume her, God intervened once more. He had not forgotten them. The angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, saying, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid." God had heard the boy's crying from where he lay. The angel repeated the promise that God would make Ishmael into a great nation. Then, in a moment of pure grace, God opened Hagar's eyes. She saw something she had not noticed before, a well of water. She rushed to the well, filled the skin with water, and gave her son a drink, saving his life. This was a powerful demonstration of God's provision, a reminder that He provides exactly what we need, even when all hope seems lost. God's presence did not leave Hagar and Ishmael after He provided the well. The Bible tells us that God was with the boy as he grew up. Ishmael thrived in the wilderness of Paran, becoming a skilled archer, a man of strength and independence, just as the angel had foretold. He was not defined by his rejection, but by God's blessing upon his life. Hagar, the devoted mother who had endured so much, saw her son grow into a man. She continued to care for him, eventually finding a wife for him from her own homeland of Egypt. This act connected Ishmael back to his mother's roots, weaving her heritage into the fabric of his future and the nation that would come from him. The promise God made to Hagar in the wilderness was fulfilled in great detail. Ishmael became the father of 12 sons who grew to be rulers of their own tribes. Their names are recorded in the Bible: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, and others. These 12 rulers established a great and powerful nation, just as God had promised to both Abraham and Hagar. Ishmael himself lived a long and full life, passing away at the age of 137. His legacy was not one of an outcast, but of a patriarch, the founder of a people who would play a significant role in the history of the world. This fulfillment shows that God's promises are true, not just for the powerful, but for everyone. The story of Hagar is a powerful and inspiring journey of faith that teaches us profound lessons. It shows us that God deeply cares for every individual, especially those who are marginalized, forgotten, or cast aside by society. Hagar was a servant, a foreigner, and an outcast. Yet God saw her, heard her, and intervened in her life not once, but twice. Her story powerfully declares that no one is invisible to God. He is El Roi, the God who sees us in our deepest pain and our most desperate moments, and his compassion extends to all people, regardless of their social status, background, or circumstances. Furthermore, Hagar's journey highlights the important and vital role that women play in God's divine plan. In a time and culture where women were often overlooked, God chose Hagar to be the mother of a great nation. He spoke to her directly, made covenants with her, and empowered her to survive and raise her son against all odds. Her story is a testament to resilience, faith, and the enduring truth that God's promises never fail. Hagar's legacy reminds us to trust in God's provision, to have faith even when we feel alone, and to remember that we are always seen and deeply loved by the one who created us.